Wai-o-naisa, or the origin of the whippoorwill. The father of Rauche-wai-me, the Flying Pigeon of the Wisconsan, would not hear of her wedding Wai-o-naisa, the young chief who had long sought her in marriage. Yet, true to her plighted faith, she still continued to meet him every evening upon one of the tufted islets which stud the river in great profusion. Nightly through the long months of summer did the lovers keep their tryst, parting only after each meeting more and more endeared to each other. At length Wai-o-naisa was ordered off upon a secret expedition against the Sioux. He departed so suddenly that there was no opportunity of bidding farewell to his betrothed, and his tribesmen, the better to give effect to his errand, gave out that the youth was no more, having perished in a fray with the Menomonees at the Winnebago portage. Rauche-wai-me was inconsolable, but she dared not show her grief before her family, and the only relief she knew for her sorrow was to swim over to the island by starlight, and calling upon the name of her lover, bewail the features she could behold no more. One night the sound of her voice attracted some of her father's people to the spot, and startled at their approach, she tried to climb a sapling in order to hide herself among its branches, but her frame was bowed with sorrow, and her weak limbs refused to aid her. "Wai-o-naisa!" she cried. "Wai-o-naisa!" And at each repetition of his name her voice became shriller, while in the endeavor to screen herself in the underwood, a soft plumage began to clothe her delicate limbs, which were wounded by the briars, and lifting pinions shot from under her arms, which she tossed upward in distress, until her pursuers, when just about to seize the maid, saw nothing but the bird, which has ever since borne the name of her lover, flitting from bush to bush before them and still repeating, "Wai-o-naisa! Wai-o-naisa!" Medicine Song of an Indian Lover. Returning from an unsuccessful hunt about dusk on the succeeding day, we found, upon entering the lodge, that the wolves had paid it a visit during our absence on the previous night. The pukwi, or mats, which had formed quite a comfortable carpeting for the humble chamber, were torn to pieces, and the voracious animals had devoured whatever articles of skin or leather they could lay their teeth upon. A pair of moccasins belonging to the rattlesnake, the carrying straps of the Canadian, and a shot pouch of my own had all been spirited off in this audacious burglary. "Wah!" ejaculated Che-che-gua, with a ludicrous intonation of dismay as he followed me into the shanty. "Wa-nain-tiet! Whose dog is this?" echoed White-plume, thrusting his head over the shoulder of the other as his companion paused on the threshold to observe the extent of the mischief. "Kitchi-ka-nate! It is very well," added he, dryly, upon observing that a large piece of moose meat, suspended from the rafters, had escaped the long-haired pilferers. I could not but sympathize with him in the self-gratulation, for I remembered once, while spending a day or two with a settler in Michigan, having gone supperless to bed when equally sharp-set, after a severe day's hunt, owing to a similar neighborly visit. The prairie wolf, though a much less ferocious and powerful animal than the woods wolf, makes up in sagacious impudence for his want of size and strength. On the occasion alluded to, one of these fellows had climbed into the window of a shanty and actually carried off a whole saddle of venison which had been prepared for cooking, before the settler and myself had started soon after dawn on our day's tramp. White-plume now deposited his rifle in a corner of the lodge, and leaving the Canadian to put our disarranged household to rights, he proceeded to the sunjawun, or cache, which was made in the bank of a rivulet near the door, and soon returned with a gourd of bear's fat and a sack of hard corn. The latter, when pounded and duly mixed with the snowy lard, made a crisp and inviting dressing for the moose meat, and enabled the Frenchman, who acted as cook, to turn out some cotetos pontes that for flavor and relish would not have discredited the cuisine of Delmonico. I confess, however, that my appreciation of the luxurious fare was not enhanced by the dexterity with which White-plume would, ever and anon, thrust the ramrod of his short northwest rifle into the dish and flirted the dripping slices into his expectant mouth. Nor was the marksman-like precision with which Che-Che-Gua launched his scalping knife into the kettle that served us for both frying pan and platter, less refined and elegant. It was not their fault, however, that we had no silver forks at table, and they certainly committed no greater breach of decorum in their eating than certain travelers affect to have seen on board some of our Atlantic steamers. Ka Che we a mai woi gui na ni ji. Will you not eat, my friend? Observed White-plume more than once, offering me with the point of his chopstick. In spite of the example of Lord Byron and Sir John Malcolm, accepting the reeking pilau from the greasy knuckles of Turk and Persian, I thought myself at liberty to decline the proffered civility, inasmuch as I was not partaking of the particular hospitality of the Indian, but felt myself as much at home in the entertainment as he was himself. The customary pipe succeeded, and there being no more fire-water, scuta warbo, in the flask of the Canadian, we added an additional quantity of tobacco to the willow scrapings from the kinnikinick bag, in order to make the smoking mixture more potent. The fumes of the inebriating weed very soon began to act upon the excitable system of White-plume, and he regaled us with a number of songs, which were anything but musical. There was but one of them that appeared to me to have anything poetical, either in sentiment or imagery, to recommend it. It was a mezi-ne-neance, or medicine song, of a lover, in which he is supposed to have some magical power of knowing the secret thoughts of his mistress, and being able to charm her to him from any distance. In English, it might run as follows: Who, maiden, makes this river flow? The spirit, he makes its ripples glow. But I have a charm that can make thee, dear, steal o'er the wave to thy lover here. Who, maiden, makes this river flow? The spirit, he makes its ripples glow. Yet every blush that my love would hide is mirrored for me in the telltale tide. And though them should sleep on the farthest isle, round which these dimpling waters smile, yet I have a charm that can make thee, dear, steal over the wave to thy lover here. In the fragments of rude and often insipid poetry with which the singer followed up this specimen of his art, there were occasional allusions which interested me and for which I attempted to get an explanation. But it was almost impossible to obtain a direct answer, for White-plume, though a great talker for an Indian, had no faculty for conversation. That is, there was no such thing as exchanging ideas with him. And even when I asked him the names of particular things, in order to increase my slight vocabulary of his language, his replies were equally rambling. Among other objects, the evening star, which glows with remarkable effulgence in the clear, frosty atmosphere of these regions, attracted my eye as its silver rays, pouring through an opening of our lodge, exhibited even more than their wonted virgin purity when contrasted with the red glare of our fire. he mumbled over some unpronounceable epithet when I asked the name of it, which was wholly lost upon my ear. But the question gave a new and more steady turn to his wandering ideas, and with the occasional assistance of my Canadian interpreter, I was able to follow him out in a very pleasing story, founded upon an Indian superstition connected with the planet. The tale will, of course, lose much on second-hand repetition, for no writer has, as yet, succeeded in his attempt to infuse the true Indian character into his narrative when he speaks in the person of a red man. The figurative phraseology of the luxurious Asiatic and the terse conciseness of expression that survives in some relics of the poetry of the ancient Northmen are sometimes so curiously reconciled and blended in the language of our aborigines as to defy even the most ingenious and gifted pen to imitate it. I cannot, perhaps, better begin the narrative than by recalling Major Long's account of the barbarous Indian ceremony which gave rise to the historical incident which is here commemorated.